Hello and welcome to Skills to Pay the Bills. I'm your host and producer, Tia Young. Today, our returning special guest has just been promoted to the Deputy District Director, Washington Metropolitan Area District Office of the United States Small Business Administration, affectionately known as SBA. Over the past 6 years, our guest has worked at SBA, serving in multiple capacities, including Economic Development Specialist and Assistant District Director of Marketing and Outreach. She has also worked in the SBA's Baltimore District Office, where she served in various professional roles. In the private sector, she served as Senior Vice President for Birch Advisors and Vice President of Operations for Mid-Atlantic Business Financial Company. Please welcome Deputy District Director of Washington Metropolitan Area District Office of SBA, Sheree L. Mackin, to Skills to Pay the Bills. Welcome, Sheree.
Hello, Tia. How are you today?
How are you today?
I am great.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
So tell us, as in your new position as Deputy District Director, how does that differ from your former role as Assistant Deputy Director of Marketing and Outreach?
So as the position in my former role as Assistant District Director for Marketing and Outreach, I was over the Marketing and Outreach Division. And our role was to basically go out and talk about SBA programs. We also provided support to the Women Business Center, the Small Business Development Center, and also the VBOT. And in addition to that office, we participated in the Boots to Business, and also our lending relationship officers that provided funds that work with the banks. So that role really consists of a couple of different things. Now, in my new position as Deputy District Director, I oversee the entire office of the Washington Metropolitan Area District Office, SBA. And that not just includes marketing and outreach, it also includes the 8A Business Development Program. Wow. And the 8A Business Development Program are for those firms that we try to help gain government access to government contracts. So in this new role, I actually oversee the entire operation of the district office.
Wow, that's a big change. And congratulations again to that.
Thank you.
Deputy District Director Mackin, here lately, I've been hearing a lot about RRF. What is RRF?
So let's start here. The American Rescue Plan Act started in March 11, 2021, which established the Restaurant Revitalization Fund with funding of $28.6 billion. Wow. Now, SBA has helped thousands of businesses as it relates to restaurant, as it relates to food and beverage businesses, to help businesses across the country, to give them the help that they desperately need to be able to rebuild and recover through this pandemic.
Right. And the pandemic has caught us all off guard.
Yes.
It really has. I don't know anybody who has not been affected by it at all. So who is eligible to apply for the RRF dollars?
So when you think about restaurants, when we think about ice cream shops, coffee shops, when we think about those businesses that are in the food and beverage industry, I think about bars, saloons, I think about taverns, lounge. Now there's an additional group of businesses that also qualify. Those businesses where 33% of their income is derived from public sales. Mm-hmm. So now we're talking about wineries, distilleries, pubs, tapping rooms, tasting rooms, also inns and bakeries. So we kind of think about, people don't think about inns when we're thinking about beverages and food locations. So when we look at this, we're really looking at those businesses that provide food and beverage services.
Are there any small businesses that are not eligible under this program?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
When we look at state and local government ran businesses, they're not eligible. If it's a public trading company, if they're permanently closed, they're not eligible. Also, we think about bankruptcy if the business is currently in bankruptcy. Now, let's not misunderstand. If a business has filed a Chapter 11, Chapter 12, Chapter 13, and they have an approved reorganization plan, they are eligible. And one thing I did leave out was franchise. Franchise are eligible as long as they're on the franchise list registry. They are eligible. Now, for those businesses that are not on the franchisee list, they can actually contact SBA, have them look at their franchise agreement, and then SBA will let them know whether or not they're eligible.
Right. That's pretty interesting about the bankruptcy part. As long as they have a reorganization, they can still apply.
Exactly.
What about, let's say I am a baker and I bake from my home, but I've got my license and everything set up. Am I able to apply, or I have to be in
Keep in mind, this is for food and beverages businesses.
Okay.
So as a banker, you're not going to qualify.
Okay.
What Congress said that we need to give help to this industry.
Yeah.
And what we've done in addition to that, we have actually looked at the smaller businesses that weren't able, that may not have benefited from the funds before that we provided.
Right.
So our administrator actually set aside $500 million for those businesses where their annual receipt is below $50,000.
Wow.
So we're trying to get to the smallest of the small businesses in addition to the other business that we're looking to help.
Well, that statement goes right to my heart. I'm so glad to hear that. You know that SBA has so many positive and helpful funding programs, and you've alluded a little bit to this. What is the difference about this new programming that has just come out? Because this sounds a little different than some of the others.
Yeah, this is so much different.
Yeah,
This is. I have been with SBA for, sad to say, but truthfully to say, for 30 years, and I've never seen a program like this. And what really makes it different is not a loan. So keep in mind, this is not a loan. It is a fund that was developed to help those businesses during this stressful time. And so that makes it really a real big difference. And then there's other things like you don't have to register through SAMS, you don't have to create a DUNS number, you will need a I-10 number, individual tax yes,
identification.
Thank you. Yeah. You will need that. But what really makes it different is the biggest thing. It is not a loan.
It's not a loan.
It's not a loan. And we're going to call it a fund.
A fund. Yes. Okay, so here, the difference between fund and a loan. I'm glad you brought that out because I hadn't weighed in on that. It's not a loan. What about businesses that maybe they already have funding that they got maybe out of the EIDL loan? Are they able to increase?
So let's talk about, there's funding that is available through through another program we call Shuttered Venue Operator Grant Program. If you have applied and your application's in process, or if you have received money through that program, you are not eligible.
Okay.
And so when we look at PPP, you're eligible, but some of those monies will be subtracted. When we look at the EIDL program, you'll still be eligible, but some of those monies that you may have received will be subtracted from that dollar amount.
Another, I think, a very important question is, what are the eligible uses of the funds?
You know, that's where it's even great, because I've seen some interesting things come out of this fund. It's for business expenses, so you can use it to pay utilities. You can use it to pay, you can use it for inventory. Business expenses. But one thing that is unique is that you can use this fund to pay your business mortgage. You can use this fund to pay your business debt. You can also use this fund for construction of outdoor seating. Now, you cannot use this fund for expansion. So that's where it's going to differ a little.
You want to add another wing or something like that, you can't do that.
Yes, exactly. You can't use it for that. But anything that's related to COVID relief, think about it that way. So that just your general business expense.
Okay, that's good. Does this funding have to be used by a certain date?
Yes, the funding has to be used by March 11, 2023. Now, Tia, we know that a lot of businesses out here are hurting. So those businesses that are permanently closed, and let's say they receive the fund, and then they close after they have received the fund. What we look at is the date that they actually closed, or either the date they actually closed or the March 11, 2023. So if they close before that date, any money is not spent, they would have to return that back to the government.
How do the business owners apply for these loans? Because when it first started out, it was really, it was confusing. The banks didn't know, and it was really confusing. So have things changed and it's a lot easier now, I hope?
Yeah, it is. We are learning from our mistakes. We really tried hard to get the funds in the business owners' hands. And so that created some finagling and trying to build the train as it moves. And but now we've been through that, a couple of phases of it. We've gotten better. And so what SBA has done on our webpage, restaurants.sba.gov, you can actually apply right on the webpage. Now, what is required is that you have to complete the form 3172. There is you have to complete the form 4506T. That is the RRF verification form. And the other documentation they have to provide is gross receipt documentation. It can be through your tax returns. It could also be through your financial statements, whether it's external or internal. It can be through your point of sale report. So we have made this really, really easy. We're understanding that as much as the business are going through this pandemic, we want to make everything as easy as possible. So opposed to bogging them down with a bunch of paperwork, we said, how can we make this easy and again, get this in the business hands as quickly as possible?
That you took the words right out of my mouth, by talking about the paperwork, because I was going to ask you about that. We had a lot of people calling because it was just so much paperwork. They felt that they had to, and some of the smaller businesses, they don't have the higher level paperwork, and they don't have the staffs to create the fancy financials and things like that. So that's really good that you've done that.
And we took that in consideration. We really did. And that was still part of helping the smallest of the smalls. So we said, you know what? If they don't have a accounting system set up, give us their sales reports from their point of sale. Give us that report. If they don't have a CPA, then give us your internal documents. So we just really want to help them.
Okay. And still on the help part, do you have, there's some people that may have like a little bit of a language barrier. So do you have people available that can, help those along and help them, actually with filling out the application where they don't understand maybe certain terms? Is that?
So we did a couple of things, which is we provided several different languages, and it is on our webpage.
Good.
And also, they also can reach out to our Small Business Development Center, to the Women's Business Center, and also SCORE. So they don't have to feel like they're in this alone. We have briefed all those resource partners on the services and the programs so they can easily guide that person through the application process. But I thought it was really unique on our webpage that we have so many different languages. And I don't want to give the wrong number, but just by a quick glance, it's over 20 different languages that's on that webpage.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's definitely key. When can small business owners begin to apply, or have they already started? Is there a deadline on that? Can you talk about that?
Yes. So they've already started applying, so we're really excited and happy about that. We are still accepting applications, but I want to be clear, right now, the funding is available for those businesses that have gross receipts up to where their annual salary is up to $50,000. We'll have to see what happens later on down the road. But what we're finding out is that a lot of the small business are not applying, and part of it is that I've been through this before. Do I want to go through this again? So I'm really urging them to please apply. Please apply. Our administrator, Isabel Guzman, set aside $500 million, you know, for those businesses. So I really hope that they take advantage, and we have taken out a lot of the paperwork that we had before, and this is a very easy process.
Right. Well, I'm glad. It looks like you've put a cap in a way on the smaller people to make sure that they get a chance. And I think a lot of it is just, you know, me being a small business owner too, you don't know who to go, and sometimes when you call the banks, I'll be honest with you, it's like they don't have a clue. And so I think a lot of really small businesses just don't understand the process, which is why I'm so grateful that you came on the show today to try to, you know, make this clear that there is funding out there, and, you know, you can apply for it just like any of the larger corporations.
And for this funding program, again, as we talked about earlier, it's not a loan. And so we have SBA staff. We have a hotline. You can actually apply over the phone. Now, I will say this: if you,
What's that number?
You can definitely apply over the phone. Now, I will say this: if you apply online, your application can be processed within 15 days. If you apply over the phone, it can take anywhere from 15 to 30 days.
Okay, so it's longer, but still, that's not, I mean, that's not bad.
And you asked me about the number. The number is 844-279-8898.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. I am told that there is something called, and you may have already alluded to this. If you have, just let me know. I missed it. It's called priority groups for funding. Is that, what does that mean?
So when we started the program, what it is for those businesses that were socially and economically disadvantaged, women and veterans, we gave them first preference.
Okay.
Just to make sure we were serving that community. So they were considered to be our priority group. So when the fund first opened, that was the first group that was eligible to apply. But now it's actually open for any food and beverages business.
I'm just curious, when did it first start where people could apply? It hadn't been that long, has it?
No,
Maybe
it
a couple
hasn't been
of
that.
weeks
It
ago?
has not been that long.
You don't have to give the exact date, but I mean, it's been what, within
It's
2 or
been
3 weeks?
It was early May.
Early May.
Early
okay.
May.
Okay,
Yep.
that's good. And you've alluded to this next question that I'm going to ask, but maybe you can weigh in on a little bit more. We've got about 7 minutes left. What can you say that will assure minority small businesses that they really do have an opportunity with this fund?
You know, one of the things we talked about earlier, one of the things that when we took away the paperwork, we learned from the last time. We learned that some of our small businesses is not going to have all the proper paperwork in order.
Right.
And we said, hey, they still need help. They're still operating. They're still working from one month to the next month. And it's how can we help them? And most of the time, some of our small business, we're doing the best we can with what we have. We're just constantly running. And we realized we need to take away some of this paperwork. Some of the paperwork is cumbersome. Let's not discourage them. Let's encourage them to apply. And that is why we cut down on the paperwork for this particular fund. And also, it was also the reason why we made it a fund opposed to a loan. No matter when you're applying for a loan, there are certain documents, certain steps that has to be followed. That's just part of a loan fund.
Right.
And so now with this, we're saying, guys, we're here for you. We hear you. We're willing to have this program for you. You know, thank God for Congress really looking back and say, hey, we didn't forget about them, and say, we turned around and said, hey, how can we really get to these businesses that are in our communities, that our communities rely on?
Right.
How can we keep them afloat? And this is why we came up with this program for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund.
Right. And again, I just want to make sure that we heard correctly that this is not a loan. It's a fund. And does that mean that it doesn't have to be paid back? Or what does that mean? The difference between...
So you don't have to pay it back, okay? But
Unbelievable.
30 years, Tia, 30 years. This is a first. This is a first. You do not have to pay it back, but you do need to provide evidence that the fund was spent on eligible costs. And some of those costs we went over, but it is also listed on the SBA webpage. But as long as you can show that it was used for those eligible costs.
And you know, this brings up something that I've been to a lot of your classes over the past years. And one of the things that you drill so much, and maybe you can speak to this a little bit, is about the importance of record keeping. Even if you don't have a CPA, you know, or record keeping is so important. And can you just address a little bit about that?
It is definitely so important. I'm talking to my lending relations specialist and my marketing outreach specialist of how do we need to go back and look at what information that we can put out to the public to get them to understand how important this is and to help them through this. Lord, hope this is the last time that we ever see a pandemic like that. But what it did bring about was that a lot of small businesses don't really keep proper records. And now we need to address it, and we need to help them through that. And it's not because they don't want to or they don't know how, but when you're running, I've had a business in my previous life. Right. So sometimes you're so busy running and you're paying people. Exactly. And you're the everything person. Right. And so we're really taking that in consideration, and we're going to come up with something in our office to figure out how can we really get to those small businesses and help ease the pain when they think about record keeping. Right. And letting them know that it's very important. It is very vital.
I mean, bank statements, gas receipts, you know, it's just important. Mm-hmm. You're right. Yeah. Thank you for that. Our time is just about up, but I want to thank you so much for coming in today, because I know how busy you are. It's a transition going on, and just everything is happening now. And I'm like you, I'm praying to God that we never have to go through what we've been through this last year. Yes. With our people and all the number of deaths that have occurred from COVID-19. Yes. And you know, are there any last parting words that you would just like to leave with our viewers?
Okay, so we are SBA, Congress are constantly trying to come up with programs every day as we're talking. You're not off our minds. I don't know what the next program will come up. What will it be? What will it not be? But I just want them to know that we're thinking about them, and we're trying to make things easy for them to get through this progress, this pandemic, till we all can recover. Right. So just because the funds are dwindling, I don't want them to think they're not still on our mind. Right. And we're trying to figure it out. So right. SBA is there to help. And I also say, please take a moment and go visit your SCORE counselor. Yes, go visit the Small Business Development Counselor. Go visit the Women's Business Center.
Because it's free,
help them.
Right?
Yes, it is free. It is free. And for the knowledge that they carry, it is a free program. And so what we also realized, again, not many people knew about the U.S. Small Business Administration. And so this pandemic has really had more and more people, right. That's SBA, this is what we do. Right. We are here to serve. Right. That's what we do. We're here to serve businesses.
Well, thank you so much for coming, and you are welcome back anytime. Anytime you want to come back and sit down and have a talk, just let me know.
Thank you. Thank you. I always enjoy the show. Thank you.
Thank you for watching Skills to Pay the Bills with our special guest, Deputy District Director, Sheree L. Mackin. If you have questions about who qualifies for funding and if funding is still available, please call the Center hotline at 1-844-279-8898 or email your local SBA district office at www.sba.gov/local-assistance. Thank you for watching Skills to Pay the Bills. I'm your host and producer, Tia Young. Stay safe, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.